You're listening to the Dibbly Dobbly Podcast. Remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to make sure you get the latest episodes of the podcast. Be sure to like and share our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and on Instagram. Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Dibbly Dobbly Podcast. On today's episode of the podcast, we review match number 13 of the ICC T20 World Cup for 2021 between Australia and South Africa from the Zaid Cricket Stadium. It's the Dibbly Dobbly Podcast, and let's get started. Let's have a look at the match summary from game number 13 of the ICC T20 World Cup for 2021 between Australia and South Africa from the Zaid Cricket Stadium in Abu Dhabi. South Africa batted first and made 9 for 118 from their 20 overs. Markram top scored with 40. Hazlewood, Zampa, Stark took 2 wickets each for Australia. Australia, in reply, finished on 5 for 121 from 19.4 overs. Smith top scored with 35. Nortje took 2 wickets for South Africa. Australia won by 5 wickets, and Josh Hazlewood was named man of the match. What were the key moments and key factors from this match between Australia and South Africa? Australia's bowling, taking wickets early in the power play, put South Africa on the back foot early, and South Africa couldn't recover and post a big score. Australia were able to keep South Africa to 9 for 118 and chase down the runs to win by 5 wickets. Those were the key moments, key factors from this match between Australia and South Africa. Let's have a look at both teams' performances in this match with both bat and ball. We'll start with Australia and their batsmen. Warner, 14, Finch, 0, Mitchell Marsh, 11, Smith, 35, Maxwell, 18, Stoinis, 24 not out, and Wade, 15 not out. That's how the Australian batsmen performed in this match against South Africa. I thought Australia's batting in this match, there are still a lot of concerns that they have. It wasn't a clinical performance with the bat. I think Australia losing wickets in this innings, in this match, made it a bit harder for themselves to chase down this low score from South Africa. Losing wickets is a problem for Australia, especially losing wickets early. We saw in this match, David Warner and Aaron Finch, they're out of form. Both of them didn't score big runs today. Finch got out for a duck. David Warner got out for 14. I thought David Warner, he played some good shots for his 14. I thought he was going to get a big score today, but unfortunately he got out. So he still is out of form, and so is Aaron Finch. So for Australia, they need Warner and Finch to get going because we know what that partnership can do in the past. You know, they can really make it dangerous for teams, make it hard for teams to bowl to them and get Australia off to good starts. Unfortunately, they've been out of nick, they've been out of form, out of touch. It only takes one good innings, one good shot as a batsman, as we all know, to get back into form. So hopefully for Warner and Finch into the next game that Australia plays, which is against Sri Lanka, hopefully they can get some runs and get some form underneath their belt because Australia do need them to get the team off to a good start and build those big partnerships. If Australia want to go deeper in this T20 World Cup, that's what they need to do. And at the moment, it is still worrying that they're not scoring the runs, and that is a concern. As I said before, Australia lost early wickets in the innings in this run chase and were on the back foot early. There were 3 for 38 inside 7.5 overs. That's not ideal. You probably want to be 1 or 2 down, not 3 down. Glenn Maxwell came in along with Steve Smith, and I thought both of them batted well. They got Australia back on track. They added 42 for the 4th wicket. Unfortunately, both of them got out, and Australia were in a bit of trouble. They were 5 down for 81, and at that stage of the game, South Africa had a bit of a sniff of victory because their bowlers were really doing well to get South Africa back into the match. They showed a lot of fight and character after the South African batsmen failed with the bat miserably. The South African bowlers were able to show that fight and character and drag South Africa back into this match, which they did. But Marcus Stoinis and Matthew Wade got Australia home. They added 40 not out for the 6th wicket and got Australia over the line to win this first match in their World Cup campaign. So I thought that was good from Stoinis and Wade to show that fight and character themselves, because Australia could have crumbled. Australia could have had another batting collapse, as we've seen in the past from Australia. When they're in this sort of situation, they crumble and they have a batting collapse. But I thought they did well to find a way to get through the tough period, to score the runs, and Stoinis and Wade did that. So that's a good sign to see from Australia, that they didn't give up. They didn't lose their calm. They kept their composure. Stoinis and Wade were able to score the runs and get Australia over the line. It wasn't pretty. It was ugly. But it doesn't matter how you win, and Australia got the win in the end, because Australia needed to win this first game against South Africa, because it is a tough group for Australia. It is the group pretty much of death in this T20 World Cup. It is such a hard group. And for Australia, if they want to go further in this T20 World Cup, they got to start being consistent and win games early. And this first game has set the tone for them in this tournament. Hopefully it will boost their confidence, and hopefully as a batting side, they're able to build off this into the next few games in this tournament, and hopefully score some runs on a consistent basis. Overall, an okay batting performance from Australia, but there's still a lot of work to do. Australia aren't the finished product yet in T20 cricket in terms of their batting. Let's have a look at the bowlers and their performance in this match. Maxwell and Cummins took 1 wicket each, 2 wickets for Stark, Samper and Hazlewood. I thought Australia bowled well in this match. Took wickets early in the power play in South Africa's innings, which put South Africa on the back foot early. And as we know in T20 cricket, when you lose wickets early in the power play, you don't go on to win the match, as the stats say. So they bowled well, they bowled good lines and lanes, they kept the pressure on South Africa throughout the whole innings, and South Africa weren't able to get away from Australia's bowlers. I thought Josh Hazlewood set the tone for Australia. He's in excellent form, Josh. He's really reinvented himself as a T20 bowler. He really has. He set the tone for Australia in this match. He's been in good form in the IPL. He's transferred that into this first T20 World Cup match for Australia, which is good for Australia. And I think he could be Australia's leading wicket taker in this T20 World Cup. I really do, because he's really bowling well at the moment, and he could be a very important bowler for Australia in this T20 World Cup. And then the other bowlers followed his lead. Maxwell, Cummins, Stark and Samper did their job. They all took wickets, they all contributed. So very good signs for Australia to see all the bowlers doing their job and taking wickets when required. So very good signs indeed for Australia in terms of the bowling for the rest of this tournament. Overall, a good fighting win from Australia to get their T20 World Cup campaign off to a good start. Hopefully they can continue on this momentum and win a few more games in the tournament. Let's have a look at South Africa's team performance in this match with both bat and ball. We'll start with their batsmen. Bavuma 12, De Kock 7, Van der Dussen 2, Markram 40, Klaassen 13 and Miller 16. Didn't get going with the bat whatsoever, South Africa, in this match. It was a pretty much poor performance with the bat in this match. They lost wickets at regular intervals, 1 for 13, 2 for 16, 3 for 23, 4 for 46, 5 for 80, 6 for 82, 7 for 83, 8 for 98, and 9 for 115. Lost too many wickets in the power play. When you lose too many wickets in the power play in T20 cricket, the stats say you don't usually win the games, and that's what happened with South Africa today in this match against Australia. They lost too many wickets in the power play, and therefore they were put on the back foot early in their innings, and they weren't able to post a big score. Also, South Africa's partnerships were lacking with the bat in this match as well. 13, 3, 7, 23, 34, 2, 1, 15, 17, 3 not out. No real big partnerships to speak of for South Africa. So that was pretty disappointing there. As I said before, the batsmen struggled in this match, and they did, big time. The only one who didn't struggle and found batting easy was Aiden Markram. I was very impressed with his shots that he played in this match. Played some wonderful shots, and he was the only South African batsman that got going. And he played a good knock for South Africa and got them to a score that wasn't enough to win the game, but it was a score for the bowlers to try and bowl to. And he did very well with the bat, Aiden Markram. So overall, disappointing performance with the bat for South Africa, and they need to work harder to improve going forward in this World Cup. If they don't, it could be very tough for South Africa to score runs in this T20 World Cup. Let's have a look at their bowlers and their performance in this match. Pretorius took no wickets, a wicket for Maharaj, Rabada and Shamsi, and 2 wickets for Nokia. I thought South Africa's bowling in this match against Australia was pretty good. Even though the batsmen batted poorly and they were really defending a low total, which is very hard to do when you get bowled or nearly bowled out for 118, which South Africa did in this match. Very hard for bowlers to defend that in T20 cricket these days. But I thought they did well to fight back and gave South Africa a chance of winning this match, because Australia, as we know with Australia, they can be a bit prone to a batting collapse. They lost some wickets. Obviously, Smith and Maxwell was set, and that partnership was probably going to take Australia home, but they got them 2 out, and they brought Stoinis and Wade at the crease, obviously 2 new batsmen, and put pressure on them. And if they got another wicket and got into the tail, it would have been a different story, and South Africa probably would have won this match. But unfortunately, they weren't able to get Wade or Stoinis out. Excuse me. They weren't able to get them out, and therefore they ended up losing this game. But I thought the bowlers bowled well to keep South Africa in this game. It showed a lot of fight and character. So I think that's the one thing that South Africa can take out of this game, is that the bowlers fought all the way and didn't give up. So that's a good sign for South Africa for the rest of the World Cup, that their bowlers will give it their all and try and win the game for South Africa. Overall, poor performance from South Africa. Their batting let them down in this match, and they need to improve their batting quickly. But the one thing they can take out of this game is that the bowlers fought hard and tried their best. Let's have a look at both teams' potential 11s for their next T20 World Cup match. We'll start with Australia. Their next match is against Sri Lanka. Their potential 11 could be Warner, Finch, Marsh, Smith, Maxwell, Stoinis, Wade, Cummins, Stark, Zampa and Hazelwood. I think Australia may keep the same 11 for their next match against Sri Lanka. It's very important for Australia to build that consistency. If they want to go far in this T20 World Cup, it's very important that they've got to be consistent. And by keeping the same team, you get that cohesion and unity in the team. So I think for Australia, they won't make too many changes. Depends on conditions for that match against Sri Lanka. They may make a change to the 11, but I think they should keep the same 11 to keep that cohesion and unity and build that consistency if Australia want to go far in this T20 World Cup. So I think Australia will keep the same 11 for their next match against Sri Lanka. Let's have a look at South Africa's potential 11 for their next match against the West Indies. Bavuma, De Kock, Van der Dussen, Markram, Klaasen, Miller, Pretorius, Maharaj, Rabada, Nokia and Shamsi. Like Australia, I think South Africa will keep the same 11 against the West Indies. In my opinion, I think this is South Africa's best 11 they can put on the park in this T20 World Cup. So I think they'll keep the same 11 for the West Indies. Even though losing this game quite badly, and they batted poorly in this game as well, South Africa, I don't think they'll make massive changes to the team. So they'll keep the same 11. Very important, just like as with Australia, I should say, to keep that cohesion and unity, and don't make too many changes for the sake of it, even though they lost badly against Australia in this match. So it's very important for South Africa to build that consistency and keep the same 11 for their next match against the West Indies. So I think South Africa will keep the same 11 for their next match against the West Indies. So these could be the potential 11s for both Australia and South Africa for their next matches against Sri Lanka and the West Indies, but we shall see. What can we expect from both teams heading into their next T20 World Cup match? Australia's next game is against Sri Lanka on Friday, the 29th of October at Dubai. That will be a tough game for Australia and will have to be on their game to beat Sri Lanka. For Australia, they need to back up this performance against South Africa for that match against Sri Lanka. Australia need to start being consistent if they want to go far in this T20 World Cup. South Africa's next game is against the West Indies on Tuesday, the 26th of October at Dubai. Tough game for South Africa. They will need to improve their batting if they are going to be competitive against the West Indies, who are coming off a bad loss to England after they were bowled out for 55. Overall, it was a good game to start the Super 12 stage of the ICC T20 World Cup for 2021. A game that went down to the wire, and in the end, Australia were victorious by 5 wickets over South Africa. Hopefully we see more exciting games during this ICC T20 World Cup for 2021. 2021. Well, that's all the time we have for this episode. Be sure to subscribe and click the bell to get the latest episodes of the podcast, and like and share our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and on Instagram. Until next time, keep safe and bye for now.